there's a new book out by Rebecca Donner called All the Frequent Troubles of Our Days, the true story of the American woman at the heart of the German resistance to Hitler.
A review in the Wall Street Journal praised the book with the headline, Mildred Harnack, Forgotten Heroine. Well, hardly forgotten, at least around here. A decade ago, we aired several stories about Mildred, and Wisconsin Public Television aired a one-hour documentary.
All this leads to the Madison Magazine columnist Doug Moe, who decided to look deeper into the life of this so-called forgotten heroine. Doug, welcome back.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you.
So for those who are not familiar with her, could you tell us the backstory?
Yeah, just kind of the thumbnail of it, Charlotte. Mildred Fish was her name. She was born in Milwaukee in 1902 and came over to UW. And that's where she met Adolf Hitler, who was German, but studying here. And they fell in love. Apparently, he proposed to her canoeing around Picnic Point. and they married and ended up going over. She was an English major. She actually wrote some articles for the State Journal back then. They ended up going over to Germany, and she taught American literature in Berlin. This is like around 1930 or so. And then as the 30s progress, of course, Hitler comes to power, and they become, both she and Arvid, leaders of the inside the country resistance. That went okay for a while, but eventually, I believe it was a stolen radio communication. They were found out. The resistance was called the Red Orchestra, and they were captured, and Arvid was executed by hanging. She was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but Hitler didn't think that was enough and ordered a new trial, and basically at his insistence, she was guillotined in 1943.
So what brought you to this place, writing this news story for Madison Magazine?
I guess, Mark, it was seeing those headlines that you guys referenced, the Wall Street Journal one, and there's another one, new one in The Economist that just came out, the British publication, that again says unknown heroine. And I thought to myself at the time, wait a minute, I wrote some newspaper columns a decade ago about a Wisconsin television journalist who had done a documentary, and you know, Joe Waldinger, who worked at Channel 3 before he went to Wisconsin, PBS Wisconsin now, he had been over in Germany, in Berlin, on a journalism fellowship in 2006. And on the last day he was there, he saw an exhibit that referenced Mildred Harnack and the University of Wisconsin, and mentioned the Hitler and the assassination. And Joel said to himself, why don't I know this one? You know, why have not heard of her? So he comes back to Wisconsin, learns that the legislature had passed a resolution saying that September 16th, her birthday, should be celebrated in every Wisconsin school every year. But that had been decades before, and she had been pretty much forgotten. So he went on a quest, and it ended up taking, 5 years and I think 3 trips to Germany. But he did this terrific documentary that I think folks can still see on YouTube. And I just got my dander up a little bit, thinking that everybody else thought that we in Wisconsin didn't know about her, that she was totally unknown, because she wasn't. And Joel told me when I interviewed him for the recent column, he's spoken 70 or 80 times around the state about her, and there's still very high interest in Mildred Harnack.
Doug, how does it feel to kind of be another voice for Mildred's story?
Well, I think it is important to keep, and in fact, Joel was so gracious, Charlotte, in kind of answering that question from my end. I'm just glad that I can advance her story a little bit. He's very gracious about the new book. He talked to Rebecca Donner, so he's just glad that her story is being furthered. And I found out, since my story posted this week on Madison Magazine Channel 3000, that Madison has an obelisk in Marshall Park in her honor. That went up just a couple of years ago, and that's an aspect of the story I didn't know. So,
this story has more layers.
Yeah.
Go to MadisonMagazine.com, read the story. It is fascinating. Doug, thanks for bringing it back to our attention.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, you guys.
We have a final check of your forecast coming up.